Hello again, everyone. And as promised, we're coming back with a roundtable discussion. This topic is focused on automation for creativity, so very practical look at how automation, how technology will help us to increase our creativity, to use our creativity, to be more creative within our organization. Lots of experts today with us. My name is Jowita Michalska, I'm CEO of Digital University, and I have pleasure to co-moderate this roundtable discussion today, together with Paweł Jakubik, cloud-based digital transformation lead from Microsoft. And let me tell just a few words about Reshape format. Reshape is an established format of discussion. We started Digital University together with Microsoft at the beginning of pandemic because we thought it's very important to start discussion, cross-industry discussion among leaders with also an international aspect, because we are now together in the very difficult situation and in a situation that will never be normal. So we need a dialogue, we need a discussion. And this is our 5th meeting in a Reshape format. And today's topic is very important, I think, and it's automation for creativity. Will automation transform our human creativity? We'll try to answer this question today. So I'd like Paweł to introduce all of our panelists today.
Thank you, Jowita. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be with you today afternoon. We will have two special guest speakers before our discussion panel. First will be Rebecca Fibrink, who will be introduced by Jowita, and Ruben Krippner from Microsoft, Director of Power Platform, Europe, Middle East and Asia. From our guest as a panelist, I would like to warmly welcome Ola Sroka-Krzyżak from PKO BP, responsible for strategy and digital transformation. I want to warmly welcome Krzysztof Soszyński, Vice President from Intercars. Hello, Krzysztof. I want to also welcome Tomek Staszelis, Chief Digital Officer from leading pharma organization in Poland and Eastern Europe, Polpharma Group. Also, warmly welcome to Lidia Kołucka, HR leader and public affairs and communication lead at Pelion in Poland. And the next one is Bartek Pucek, country digital manager at IKEA. Welcome, good afternoon. And the next one, Kamila Stępniewska, founder and automation education at Ginger Tech, consultant on artificial intelligence. Also, we have Kacper Nosarzewski, futurist and partner at SF Strategic Foresight, member of the board of Polish Society for the Study of the Future. And last but not least, welcome Paweł Szygulski from portal WNP.pl, journalist representing. Jowita, over to you to introduce our first guest speaker.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Rebecca Fibrink. Rebecca holds a PhD in computer science from Princeton University. As a reader at the Creative Computing Institute at University of the Arts London, her teaching and research focus largely on how machine learning and artificial intelligence can change human creative practices. Rebecca, please, the floor is yours. Please share some initial thoughts for the discussion.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation today. So today I'm going to be talking about how the current research landscape for AI systems that support creativity and automate creative processes looks, what people are currently doing, what might be in the near future, and how I would suggest that it might be useful to think about this space. Today I'm going to talk a bit specifically about machine learning. Machine learning is the subset of AI that works with patterns and data and uses those patterns and data to enable computers to do new things. And of course, machine learning is where some of the most well-known and exciting AI advances have come in from the last few years. And I know many people here know about machine learning, but just to be absolutely clear about how machine learning is different from AI generally, I want to give you some examples. So machine learning, when I teach this to my students, I talk about it doing 3 things that are relevant when we think about creativity. So first of all, machine learning can help us identify patterns in data. So if you have a database of customers of your business, you might identify groups of customers who are similar. Or if you have a data set of images, you might be able to find images that are similar. Machine learning also allows us to use data to make predictions. So if we have a database of customers, information about past customer demographics and what they have bought. We maybe have a new customer and we know their demographic information, but they haven't bought anything yet. Well, we could predict what they are maybe likely to buy. Or if we have lots of images labeled with different objects, we can use that to look at a new image and predict that, yes, this new image is likely to maybe have a cat in it. And then third, machine learning allows us to generate new content from these data sets. So if we train a machine learning algorithm, specifically a generative algorithm, on thousands of images of cats, we can get it to produce more images that look a lot like cats. Or if we train a generative text algorithm on the works of Shakespeare, we could then produce new text that sounds a lot like Shakespeare. Now, generative AI, this third category of machine learning, this has been getting a lot of media attention in the last few years, especially around generating new content in art and other creative domains. So you might be familiar with some projects in this space already. First of all, you may have seen this work of visual art called The Portrait of Edmund de Bellamy. This was a machine-generated portrait sold at a Christie's auction for over $400,000 in 2018. Just last week, The Guardian in the UK featured an article titled, "A robot wrote this entire article. Are you scared yet, human?" And according to the headline here, The Guardian says this article is written entirely by AI, and the article lays out some arguments about why we shouldn't fear AI, but rather welcome it. And of course, there's many other examples that you may have seen in computer-generated text or music or visual art. So it's a very exciting time in computer science right now. And it's certainly no accident that these systems are getting a lot of media attention. The algorithms that we use to find these patterns, make predictions, and generate new content, these are getting better and better at finding patterns and especially mimicking them in ways that we find to be realistic. But the first real point I want to make to kick off our discussion is that we do need to be aware of the limitations. There's a lot of hype out there in the media, and a lot of times this hype makes it difficult to separate what's really happening in these systems from fiction or advertising. And it makes it difficult to understand clearly where these technologies might be going in the future. So a few challenges I want to highlight. So first of all, these existing systems, they are super impressive. As a computer scientist, 10 years ago, I really didn't think we would be here today. We're great at generating text and image and sound and all sorts of other things, and it's getting better every day. But these contents that are generated in these domains are not necessarily as coherent or as realistic as you might think on first glance. So if you take a look at the portrait of Edmund Bellamy, for instance, it still looks like it's machine generated. It doesn't look exactly like a human portrait painter might have made something. And this is getting better. Can we, at some point today or in the very near future, generate a portrait that is indistinguishable from something a human might make? Absolutely. The Guardian article that I mentioned, the text at first glance looks pretty reasonable. When you start to really look at it, at the logic behind it, you start to notice some things that look a little bit fishy. And yeah, sure, this is going to get better and better over the next few years. But still, if you read the small print in that Guardian article, there's even an editor's note that talks about what turns out to be a really extensive amount of human involvement in getting this autonomously generated article into print, right? A human gave instructions, very detailed instructions to the AI about what the article was to be written about. And in fact, 8 different essays were generated. Human editors spliced these essays together after the fact, right? So it's really a bit disingenuous to say that this article was written entirely by AI, right? There's a lot of human involvement in this and in pretty much every other system that you see out there. there that people are advertising as being autonomous. And that's going to be the truth for the foreseeable future. A second challenge in these systems is that oftentimes we need to train them on really big data sets, and often those data sets have bias in them. So for instance, GPT-3 is the text modeling approach that was used for that Guardian article. There's been a bunch of people analyzing GPT-3 and its predecessor GPT-2 and noticing that if you give it sentences to complete, starting with the woman, the man, the white man, the black man, and so on, you often get statements that have sexist or racist biases in them. And that's because the data that these algorithms were trained on themselves, they come from the world. There's biases in the sorts of things people write in the world, and that gets encoded into the algorithms themselves, and it shows up in the content that they generate. This isn't just a problem thinking about sexism or racism. It also means that we're much better at modeling genres where we have lots of data. So it's pretty easy right now to churn out some text that reads like a New York Times article, but not at all easy to churn out text maybe that seems like it's from an independent zine in Poland. And the third issue that I think everybody needs to be aware of here is that these algorithms, for the most part, can't innovate, right? These algorithms in the current time or the near future are not going to turn out the next work of literature by Shakespeare or the next Bach, right? They act much more like making a remix of existing work using existing techniques. And there's a few reasons for this. So number one, the algorithms that we're using lack the deep understanding of a domain that humans have. So again, this is why things like GPT-3 can make text that's really coherent, certainly at the sentence level, at the paragraph level, maybe even at the page level. But if you ask it to write an entire novel, it's not going to be able to reproduce the kind of structure that you as a human would want as a reader. Part of the problem is also that algorithms that we're using to do generation are designed by their creators not to innovate, but rather to mimic, right? GANs, these generative adversarial networks, have a component inside them that penalizes the algorithm if it makes something that's too innovative, because the goal is to make something that's indistinguishable from the training data used to build a model. This is an area of research, and there definitely are computer scientists out there who are trying to think about how we might build slightly different algorithms that have an incentive built in to make something a little bit different. But at the end of the day, one of the problems that's going to remain, even with current research, is that algorithms lack the cultural knowledge and goals that humans have that enable us to make work that is socially relevant, that's culturally relevant, that enable us to identify the opportunities to push the boundaries of current practice in meaningful ways. So this is going to remain a problem. And this is why I'm skeptical of a lot of the hype around what's called maybe creative AI. That said, there are a number of really compelling and exciting ways that AI and machine learning can impact human creative work, enabling human creators to work more effectively and to make things that they couldn't make before. And this goes for the arts, art, music, dance, and so on, as well as all sorts of other domains of human work. One category, of course, that you might already be thinking about is using these kinds of generative algorithms to enable people to generate things, right? This is a short step from the portrait of Edmund Bellamy, thinking about, well, what might a serious artist do with an algorithm like this in their own practice? And we have all sorts of examples of serious artists using these exact same methods and using them to make really interesting new pieces of art that don't look just like, a portrait from centuries ago, but rather look like something new. Mario Klingemann is one of my favorite examples. He's a programmer himself, and his working process with these algorithms involves changing the training data that he uses to generate images and using that as a way to sort of guide the type of work that's generated, changing the algorithms themselves, and then generating thousands of things and picking among the ones that he likes. Right? So he's making really fantastic stuff, as are a number of artists like him. Now, one of the really exciting things that is key to using generative work creatively alongside humans is that many of these generative algorithms or other deep learning algorithms build what's called a latent space representation for media. So for instance, if you train an algorithm on thousands or even millions of images of people's faces, it can learn about what combinations of pixels tend to look like faces and which combinations of pixels don't look like faces. And this really simplifies the task of generating a new face. So it used to be that we approached the task of generating a new face in a computer by working with pixels, by making algorithms that determined what color each pixel in an image should be. And of course, there are hundreds or thousands of pixels in each image, and each pixel can be thousands of possible colors. So this is a really difficult task. Most combinations of pixels that you might randomly choose don't look anything like a face. However, a machine learning algorithm that learns a latent space from millions of faces, you can think of it as discovering a small number of sliders. So sliders that you might be able to manipulate up and down. And each slider controls something about the face that might be generated. So any combination of slider values gives you a face. It's never going to give you a tree or a dog or random noise. Right? Furthermore, small movements of these sliders might change the shape of the face, or the color of the hair, or the angle that someone is looking, or they might add glasses, and so on. Right? So these latent space sliders give people new ways to control machine-generated content. So for instance, if we stick with the example of faces, you might give a machine learning system the face of a real person from a photo. And then it can find the set of slider values that most closely corresponds to that particular face in that photo. And then you might tweak those slider values just a little bit to get the machine to generate some realistic variations. And this same process works with all sorts of other media as well. I have a postdoc working with me right now who uses machine learning to make electronic dance music. He's built a latent space representation that allows him to generate rhythms in live performance. Now, all these rhythms that the machine generates are relevant and acceptable in the genres he's working in, but he doesn't know exactly what the machine is going to produce next. So he gets a lot of nice surprises, similar to what he have with a really adventurous human collaborator who's familiar with the genre that he's playing. Now, these latent spaces can also be really useful, enabling people to edit content in more realistic ways. So for instance, again, you could take a photograph of a real person who isn't smiling and then manipulate the latent space sliders that correspond to smiling, allowing you to change that image so they are smiling and it looks like they were in the original photo. You're all probably familiar with the phenomenon of deepfakes, in which video content is altered to maybe swap faces with someone else, making it look like someone famous did something that they didn't do at all. Could also edit audio content in order to make it sound like someone said something that they didn't actually say. And of course, this has huge ethical and societal implications, many of them problematic, if we can no longer trust that what we see or hear in a video is real. But of course, these techniques have all sorts of really useful, practical applications in editing video, audio, and other media, in content creation for industries like film, gaming, VR, and others. Machine learning, especially these generative algorithms, also enable people to explore design spaces more effectively. If you think about design, not just in creating visual art or music, but designing a new chair, designing a new car, designing a new operations process within a factory, AI tools can help people explore designs that might be related to initial ideas that they have in mind, but which also satisfy really complex goals that might be difficult for people to understand. So for instance, Autodesk now has a set of generative design tools and a track record of working with creators in a number of different industries recently, where you can take people who really understand the design problem and might have some ideas in mind and pair them with AI algorithms that can come up with variations of a design that might meet very specific manufacturing requirements or improve the sustainability of a product that is created. And the last thing I'll say about generative machine learning is that there's all sorts of ways to use these generative algorithms to make content creation faster and easier, and we don't have to have better algorithms. We can do really exciting things with the algorithms we have right now. We can open up creation to novices, and we can also help experts make better content faster. So I'll give you a few examples. So NVIDIA has a project recently called the Gauguin Smart Brush, and you can take an interface, user interface that looks sort of like Microsoft Paint, if you remember this. You can just draw, pretty simple things on the screen using simple colors, and Gauguin turns this into a realistic landscape, for instance. So you say, well, I'm going to put green here because this is grass, and blue here because I want this to be water, and then boom, Gauguin will give you a pretty realistic scene of grass and water and fill in the details in a way that's really exciting for a novice, right? Allows a novice artist to make something that they could never make otherwise. But furthermore, this is something that can be really useful for experts in a number of domains to prototype what different landscapes might look like for a new VR environment, for instance. Here in London, we have a company called JukeDeck. They do music generation. You can go to their website and say, I want a electronic dance music track. I want it to be upbeat. I want it to be 2 minutes and 14 seconds long. And I want the moment of peak intensity to occur at 1 minute in exactly. And it'll generate you a track. Now, the tracks that JukeDeck generates are not necessarily things that you would want to hear on the radio, right? I wouldn't put on JukeDeck and then just jam with it at home. It's not quite at that quality. It's not quite as interesting as something a human would make. However, this is super useful for things like, say, YouTube video creation. If you're an at-home novice or fairly expert YouTube video creator, you've got a lot of content that you're focusing on, which is the video content. And you know that this content is going to be improved by having some kind of appropriate background track. Now, most people in this space can't afford to hire a composer to make them their own custom soundtrack. Often what they do is they license a piece of music that's pretty off the shelf and not particularly suited to their own content, or they just go without music completely. JukeDeck offers them a really nice alternative in that they can have music that fits their content. It doesn't need to be great works, masterpieces of music in order to really be useful. All right, now I've just a little bit of more examples to broaden the discussion, broaden your thinking about how machine learning might be useful beyond simply using generative machine learning algorithms. So machine learning can also be useful if we're finding patterns or making predictions to support other aspects of the creative process. Again, both in art and music and in all sorts of other human creativities. So, all sorts of other human activities. So for instance, machine learning can be really good to observe how human experts do tasks that are maybe not particularly interesting or that are really hard to learn how to do accurately. And then it can learn how to mimic those tasks and automate those parts of a process in something that might be a larger creative task. So for instance, in music, often the process of applying equalization and mixing and mastering, this is something that can take a lot of time. It can be something that is not particularly creatively satisfying, especially the beginning parts of this. But it's really necessary to do if you're going to make a music recording that sounds good. There's a fair amount of research and increasingly some commercial tools out there that just take data from, data about how experts do these things, and then predict how an expert might do these same steps for a new music project. Now, the results that you get are not going to be necessarily as good as if you hired a human expert to do it, but it means that people who are novices, who are new to this, who haven't learned how to do this process themselves, they can get stuff that sounds much better than they would be able to otherwise. And it also means that experts can often use this automated approach to get them maybe 50% or 75% of the way to their final result, and they can spend their time doing the things that they're really good at. And then again, in general, one of the real strengths of machine learning across all sorts of domains of human practice is that when we're able to identify patterns and use patterns in data, this helps us to construct computer systems that better understand the world, right? We can build systems that can understand phenomena that we might find difficult to describe accurately in math or in code. So we can get computer systems that understand content, right? Is a photo of a person or landscape? Is a musical recording a guitar or a drum? Because if you can get a computer to know these things, then that helps maybe us to edit or present changes based on the content of that content. Sorry, the nature of that content. In a lot of my work, I deal with live performance, when a computer can listen maybe to the music that a musician is playing and perceive notes or rhythms closer to the way a human would. Machine learning then enables us to build new types of computer accompaniment systems. When a computer can more accurately understand how somebody is moving, this enables us to build new musical instruments or new interactive dance systems, as well as new systems for sports and rehabilitation or interfaces for people with disabilities. When a computer can more accurately understand how we feel or what we're paying attention to, maybe using data about real-time brain activity or heart rate or eye tracking and so on, this opens up all sorts of opportunities to get feedback on designs created by humans, or to give machine content generation systems feedback that they can learn from to improve their automatically creative designs. So I hope this was a useful overview of the way that I see the possibilities in this field right now. We're absolutely witnessing a new era in creative work made possible by machine learning. And I think we're going to see some very exciting changes over the next decade or two. Of course, this isn't the first new era in which technological change has led to dramatic changes in the type of creative practices people engaged in. There was a lot of controversy in the 19th century when photography was created, for instance, and many people saw it as a threat to the very practice of painting. Paul Delaroche declared at one point, "From today, painting is dead." And of course, painting isn't dead. Photography didn't, destroy painting. Photography morphed into its own medium of art, and according to some people, freed up painters who no longer had to, do the task of making extremely photorealistic work, but actually could think about what else paint might be good for. So when you think about the creative impact of AI technology in the coming years, I'd encourage you to think beyond short-sighted questions about whether AI is going to replace us or whether AI is capable of being truly creative, because this I find really similar to the people in the 19th century worrying that photography was going to kill painting and kill art. Instead, I think it's useful to think about how AI tools are going to be used to enhance the work that people are already doing, to think about the ethical, legal, and policy ramifications of using algorithms that might encode bias, that require really giant data sets and powerful hardware that many people don't have access to, which have a huge carbon footprint, and so on. And furthermore, thinking about how improving the usability and affordability of these AI-based tools that we're seeing at the cutting edge of research right now, what's going to happen when those become accessible to more and more people? All right.
Thank you,
That's all for me.
Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. It's definitely fruitful thoughts. Before our discussion, Pavel, could you introduce our next speaker?
I am really impressed, Rebecca, for the set of examples, especially how many things you really map to the real practical examples. Now I want to introduce the second guest speaker, and I want to ask Ruben Krippner for your and for Microsoft perspective on process automation, on this latest trends, what also Rebecca described. So Ruben, stage is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just want to confirm, first of all, that you can see the slides?
Yeah, we can see.
Terrific. So unlike Rebecca, I'm going to hide behind some slides to run through my discussion today. But I want to focus on, in terms of what we refer to as shaping the future, what the impact of a new category of technology, which we call low-code, no-code. So the ability to use technology to harness non-developers or non-technical people within organizations to be able to solve problems, to be able to automate processes, and to take advantage of some of the AI capabilities that Rebecca was just describing. So in order to do that, as we look at the kind of the new world of shaping this future, there's three characteristics that you need to look at for an organization. So there's no question that COVID has had an impact in terms of the way people work, the way people interact, and the way that organizations look at their business or their operational model. So one of the things that we look at is this vision and strategy. And we look at, now that we are in this crisis and we're working our way through it, and the world is adjusting to this new normal, it's how do we as an organization rethink what our mission, what our North Star, what our key objectives are as an organization, and assess as to whether or not returning to the normal as we knew it is positive for the organization, positive for our customers. And then the objective of looking at that vision and strategy is, how do we emerge stronger? How do we look at aligning that vision and strategy, potentially taking advantage of the new ways that people work and live, and driving more productive organizations and more agile people within that organization? So it's about assessing or reassessing the vision and strategy, and how we put in place plans and objectives that allow us to emerge stronger. So if we also then look at the cultural aspect, so once we look at an organization and we say, okay, as we deal with COVID, as we deal with the changed world, what is our new vision and strategy for the future? There needs to be a review of the culture of the organization. So as we look at technologies and the use of technologies, there needs to be an embodiment of a culture of driving innovation. And so what that means is, from a cultural perspective, leaders, you as leaders, need to look at driving a unified view of the world, ensuring that the culture of the organization has a clear purpose, aligns with our vision and strategy, and that we are looking to recruit and guide our employees around shared values and ideas, sharing ideas about the future. It also means that with the new pattern on how people are working remotely, that there needs to be this level of connectedness, this ability to still collaborate in the same way we are today, where we are not face-to-face, where we are not in the same room or the same building or even in the same city. So it's, how do we drive a culture of inclusion and being connected, and utilizing technologies to be able to capture ideas and streamline processes? So there needs to be a commitment to a culture of innovation. And then we look at the third characteristic, and this is around capabilities. What are the capabilities across multiple lines that an organization is going to need to drive towards a new vision and strategy, and how does a culture, an inclusive culture, a culture of innovation, manifest itself? So there's three key kind of components of it. Obviously, human capabilities. Do we have the right skills? Do we have the right resources? Are we providing the right training that enable our people to work effectively towards our revised strategy and vision? Operationally, do we have efficient processes for better customer experiences, improved ways on working, being more agile, more nimble in the way that we operate as a business? And it takes everyone in the organization to be part of that journey. And then finally, from a technical perspective, and obviously, coming from Microsoft, this is a key ingredient that we provide, is what are the digital capabilities, the technologies, the technical capabilities that can be applied of innovation across the organization and digital transformation. So how do we apply the right skills and resources? How do we refine and optimize our processes? And then how do we apply technology to it? And this is where this interesting, exciting world of low-code, no-code digital transformation tools is coming in. But there's more context than that. So the first thing is there's over 2 billion first-line workers across the world. An incredible, staggering number of people that are in customer-facing roles and parts of the organization. And studies and research shows that over three quarters of these first-line workers feel they don't have the technology tools to be more productive. They're too reliant on paper or manual processes, or they're working with aged solutions and systems that are getting in the way of doing their job. And we counter that with the fact that the business demand, so as we look at this new digital world and people wanting to collaborate and communicate and work together, the demand for apps and processes is 5 times IT's ability to deliver. And I'm pretty sure everyone in this discussion will recognize that the business pressures to adjust and evolve and run more effectively, that the requests for technology solutions far outstrips IT's capability traditionally to go and use developers to go and build applications or deploy solutions. And then in the same way that Rebecca talked about AI revolutionizing the way that we potentially write, paint, draw, listen and compose music and all other aspects on how we work with information, that's coupled with hundreds of millions of apps that we run both in our personal and our professional life. And the staggering statistic there is that there will be 500 million apps going to be built over the next 5 years, which is more than all of the apps built in the previous 40. So how do we look at making that transformation more effective, more efficient? How do we enable the business to be able to solve problems themselves without the need for professional developers and deep technical skills? We'll never replace the need for technical skills, but what we do want to do is empower more people to be able to use technology to be more efficient, and we need a culture that empowers people to use these tools. So this is where the rise of the citizen developer comes in. And this is probably the least technology-driven thing in the market today. This is fundamentally a culture. And that is, how do we use technology, which we call low-code, no-code tools? So a visual design experience without writing any code to build sophisticated apps that run on mobiles and tablets and browsers. But how do we enable more of the business and non-technical people to accomplish this and build apps and workflows and solve problems? And so this category is now called the citizen developer. And why it's so exciting and interesting and why there's so much buzz around it, analyst firms like Gartner, they're estimating that within 4 years, 2/3 of app development activity will be completed with these low-code, no-code tools. So a staggering transition from the traditional method of programmers sitting down and writing code to that being complemented by this new generation of business people that can build apps and automate and solve problems autonomously. So the revolution is as big a shift as the advent of AI and machine learning in the way we look at information and disseminate information and make decisions. We're now looking at a whole different way on how applications are built and processes are automated. So if we accept this new emergence of these technology tools, and we look at how we can utilize these technologies to what we refer to as democratizing innovation, what are the benefits of utilizing this technology? The first one is we are leveraging more of the subject matter expertise. Your employees, your first-line workers, your experts in the business know more about the business than the leadership do. They know what's working, they know what's broken, they know what customers like and what they don't like. So why don't we empower them to make their customer engagement experiences, their interpersonal, their employee interaction experiences better? How do we leverage more internal expertise to say, you know what, let's get rid of these paper forms. Let's digitize these processes. That's one of the key benefits on democratization of innovation. Then the other thing is, not only is it about building forms over data, simple applications, we want to abstract away and allow these citizen developers to use AI and chat experiences, things like cognitive services for object detection. So I can build a pretty sophisticated app that takes a photo, detects that that is part number 457 on my production line machine A, and enable us to automate processes to potentially reorder that part. These can be accomplished now without writing a single line of code. And it's not only blazing the trail on using these AI and machine learning technologies, it's how do we tangibly put that in the hands of business people who can take advantage of it. Same with chat experiences. We've got people that know everything about customer processes and the business and the subject domain. Let's empower them to build chat experiences so that customers and other employees can find answers to their questions more readily. And then finally, the low-code, no-code kind of revolution enables business and IT to partner like never before. So the business can prototype applications. They can visually design and give feedback around applications that are being built. And IT can focus on how do we manage this application at scale? How do I build and use my coding skills to do the integration heavy lifting? So it brings business and IT together like never before. So that's what we refer to as democratizing innovation. And then finally, just some examples of people that I've come into, that I engage with within Microsoft that have done amazing things using these tools. So Sumit was a security guard at Heathrow Airport, loved his job, had been engaged there and had been employed for 13 years, but was always tinkering with technology, discovered a low-code, no-code tool and built out applications that replaced paper for gate-side operations, things like checklists before an aircraft pushes back, health and safety checklists, safety reports, audits of everything being completed at gates and through the airport consistently, and being able to have that data to analyze it. Just the removal of paper has saved Heathrow over £300,000 just in paper costs, not to mention the time saving, the efficiency, the better customer experiences. Then we got Martin from Autoglass, so who's internally referred to as the App Man, and he was a dispatcher. His job was to go and allocate crews to go to repair windscreens and other damage to people, to customers' vehicles. And he looked at how they ran their processes, a lot of paper, a lot of manual processes, and simply went, there's got to be a better way to do it. Spent 48 hours, looked at documentation, built out apps, and has delivered over 50 different apps right across the organization at Autoglass. So a huge revolution in terms of how these people not only can contribute, which is more rewarding and feels inclusive, but were backed by a culture from their organization that says, we want you to innovate and improve our processes. So just a couple of examples. And so in conclusion, the shift to these low-code and no-code tools, it's inevitable. You've seen the market research, you've seen the demand, you've probably heard about lots of vendors that produce these tools. The organization that utilizes these technologies is prepared for these technologies and drives a culture of innovation and empowerment is going to take advantage and have least disruption and have most positive benefits from the arrival of these low-code, no-code tools. And your role as leaders is to establish and foster that culture innovation. The technology piece is the easy part. It's empowering people and ensuring that they feel confident to be able to drive this innovation that can then support your revised strategy and vision and help people collaborate and be more productive and drive better customer experiences. Thank you very much.
Ruben, thank you so much for your really great intro pitch. I love this structure when you build from the visions and strategy through culture to capabilities, this journey and these 3 pillars we need. And now I would like to open Reshape of the Future DNA is a legendary from the very dynamic discussion. So now I encourage everyone to be a part of this discussion. I want to start from Ola. Ola, PKO Bank Polski is the largest Polish bank. You are leading in many aspects, and you are a benchmark for other organizations. However, when I was listening, Rebecca and Ruben, I was thinking it's really this automation for creativity is for Polish market is a song of the future, what will happen next 3 years, or we are talking about something what just started now, because between us, guys, 2-3 years ago, no one was talking about low code, no code, about this thing. So we had something new on the stage today. Yeah. And because you are leading so many projects, you are responsible for digital transformation, for agile streams in PKO. Could you give your perspective on this topic?
I mean, COVID, while being damaging to the society, to also to our industry, because like banking lost half of its profit, did one good thing for people like me, so leading a digital transformation. No one is questioning the need of bank being like 100% digital. Finally. Yeah, we knew we have to be like 60%, maybe 70, maybe 80, constant discussions about the business cases. Right now, everyone knows that we need to be 100% digital. So on this vision and strategy part, I think we are done. Regarding the culture, I mean, you can always work on culture. And a few years ago, we did this agile project of bringing IT and business people together so that they would speak the same language, and sit in the same room. That was the first step. I think it's already done. Of course, the culture of innovation is a constant task, and paradoxically right now in this hybrid or work from home mode, it's much more difficult to be creative. So this part actually is much worse, and the cooperation on the, I would say, processes is going relatively fast, and the implementation is going very well, but this creative part, it's not going that well, and we have learn to do now. And I see these capabilities as a next step, because we know we need to be digital. Everyone knows what to do, and it all ends up in our app. And we know we don't have that many either developers or people who can actually code that solution into a single app. So it's not a huge topic right now. I cannot say it's definitely done, but I think it's a reasonable next steps to democratize the access to coding capabilities, because we know the needs are much bigger than than the number of people that we have.
And in the second part of Rebecca's intro was this many examples of painting, of some non-business examples. And I was wondering and want to ask maybe Tomek Staszelis from Polpharma, when you listen a lot of examples from this non-business ideas, what we are observing on the market. Do you have any, because Polpharma has a very strong brand of the innovating in very innovation organization. Do you think that you are now in this stream, or you are, looking for your own way to this, Tomek?
No, thank you very much. I think honestly that's Rebecca mentioned the stream of AI creativity, where it is about AI creating something. I think Ruben mentioned something about human using low code, no code to develop automation further. I would add a third angle, and the angle that we strongly, let's say, developed currently in Polpharma, which is creating a combo, AI-human combos. And you have multiple levels of how these combos can work together. It starts on a very simple way where automation, AI, robotic process automation can simply create time for people who until now have been doing a lot of activities, relatively simple, but something that has to be done. And now, thanks to this automation, we have created time for these people to become creative. And of course, we also need to help these people to, let's say, free that creativity. And that's why we in Polpharma currently run a major innovation program where the idea is of course to deliver value to the business, but the primary objective is actually to teach people to be creative. And Jovita knows, because she helps us in this process as well. So this is one element. The other step where I can see this combo being more advanced is actually, AI helping people to act faster. And for me, the COVID-19 is the best situation, is the best proof of that, because, we would never had so many COVID vaccinations on the market in the clinical trials if we would not have possibility to employ artificial intelligence in a pre-work, let's say. And I know that you guys from Microsoft have been involved already in April, I think, in US to build the huge repository of the data related to COVID-19 that actually all these artificial intelligence solutions could access and build their recommendations based on that. So I strongly believe that we are already in it. In Polpharma, we definitely put a lot of effort to develop these things jointly. And I see a big future actually in this, partnership between artificial intelligence and human being. But we have to remember one very critical element, and I here completely agree with Ruben. It has to be a clear vision in the business why you do it. Because just running, in a hype to become AI company can actually make you worse in this context. Second, culture is critical because you have to have adaptation of people to that concept. People must want to be part of that and develop it jointly. And then capabilities, I fully agree. And, I look forward to see this low-code, no-code approach, because that will boost, for creative organizations, it will boost their performance by far.
I want to ask now Krzysiek Soszyński. When you listen, Krzysiek, you are from automotive business, and Intercut is also very well known on the Polish and European market. This what I've heard from Ruben, and now Tomek confirmed, is that this low-code, no-code will change some paradigm also. Paradigm that it will be no IT teams needed to many business projects, business technology projects. And this is the question to you, because you are not directly in IT, but you are cooperating within the group. Do you believe that your business users will take this low-code, no-code applications to develop innovation for Intercars? And your general also opinion to Rebecca and to Ruben intro. Please, Krzysiek.
Okay, I start from one point that generally in our life, the human as a creature we want to be important. And this is the main driver that we do something. Even if we look for the philanthropes, they do these paintings or pay for this in the past for the paintings, that on the grave they have some inspiration that they supported somebody, which I can think that for many people it will be driver, for many people will be cure, what to do, and it's, even if something is unknown, is the biggest fear. But generally, I'm very happy that I'm here. I think it's great that we have these times, and these times are coming. And I can say that the people receive the possibility of superpower. We could say that we can be like Iron Man using this technology. And generally, of course, always one part what was missed from Ruben's presentation was discussion about the limitations of this environment, where we can go and when we have to stop it. Because generally, when we today focus on optimistic view, I think it's a great, and even in our company, I think that we have even IT is much more in-source than is our employees. We as a company, we're using this, what Drucker told 20 years ago, that we have these internal entrepreneurs, which are like these nomads, which means that all franchise systems which we deal with, it's like a lot of the people connected to the network using some values and hunting on the field, which means that today we use this AI much more as a machine process learning for the reducing the cost. But we have as well the projects about how to multiply revenues, how to prepare the right stock, right products, how to choose the right matching of the part to the right VIN, means the code of the car. And in the future, I think that the people can be much more used by the frontman from this customer experience journey, as was mentioned by the Ruben, that they will do the normal job. And I believe it's great because it's a lot of the boring job we have in the company, that the people are frustrated, they do not like it, and they would like to live from this. Of course, it's a big challenge, how to make onboarding of the new skills for the new people, because as well we know that we have to find the way how to bring the people as a case of solidarity, that we will have the people which not fit to this. And this is something even in Poland we have, that a lot of the people were not ready for transformation, politic transformation from the communistic time. And as well we have to think about these limitations, but I think today it's a great superpower for us, and I think we have to think about this what is good, and I think it's a lot of the opportunities, and I love it. I'm very excited. Thank you.
And all I want to do,
because you asked the question whether low-code, no-code will replace the IT people, and I think it's similar to like robots not replacing humans or AI not replacing artists. Yes, I think there is a superpower. Yeah, there is a superpower of cooperation, and I see of some less value-add tasks being done by, automated tools, and some more value-add tasks being performed by people who do have more time to do it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
These bionic solutions probably are much better than the simple idea of replacing someone with someone. Yeah,
that's a very interesting continuation of the discussion we had during the previous roundtable discussion an hour ago about automation against cobotization. You know, what is much better? So we all agreed that cobotization is much better direction we should go, because at the end we will end in the world we would like to live, not only technology would like to live. And so I'd like to go maybe now to Bartek Pucek, because I'm interested how it looks like in IKEA. You also very much interested in a workplace, because you're also co-creating the new workplace. So tell us about how technology is influencing your world and the world you create for your customers.
Hi everyone. So I think we are looking at it from a three-dimensional perspective. So one is the perspective, of course, of the customer. The second one is the perspective of the coworker, and the third one is the technology perspective. And they are all connected. And we had worldwide more people visiting the IKEA website than visiting our Blue Box stores for the past 12 months. So if we are looking at AI from a capability perspective, it's of course about machine learning and surfacing new products. It's about designing new products that Rebecca mentioned and exploring new prototypes, so that at the end of the day, the algorithm or AI transformation of every part of the value chain, whether it's the fulfillment process or how we are working internally, are we more affordable? Are we closer to the customer? And especially what also I think Rebecca mentioned, are we also creating more sustainable products? And then of course there's the privacy of the AI topic and how we are approaching privacy and data ethics. And I think for us, especially at IKEA, it's a very important topic also. Then from a coworker perspective, I think what Tomasz was saying, it's about removing bottlenecks. So at the end of the day, tech as itself is worthless if we won't be able to put it in proper use. So how we are using algorithms and machine learning and especially deep learning in business analytics, and how we are identifying the bottlenecks of the coworkers inside the company. So are we saving time or adding more work? Are we thinking about dismantling the processes that are not working effectively versus creating new processes through algorithms or through digital transformation or low code, no code solutions, which will enable much more things to be done by every coworker, not only by the digital or IT or development teams. So that means at the end of the day also that we can help coworkers make better decisions and create better tech by people who are closer to the problems. And I think from a coworker perspective, that's a great way to think about it. And of course, if we are looking at it also from a purely tech perspective, technology at the end of the day is an enabler. So if we are looking through the lens of our this year acquisition of Geomagical Labs, when we are using augmented reality to understand what can we do and how can we design interior and rooms, bedrooms, kitchen through the help of algorithms. Technology is an enabler of an existing need from a customer perspective. Then, of course, if we are looking at LiDAR as a technology that was introduced in the latest iPad that we leveraged in one of our apps to help you see how your interior will look like through the lenses of your device, not having to go directly to a store, but just to see how it will look like in your room. And then also, if you think about how the tech evolves right now, there is a case that, or a customer use case that you will be able to design, for example, a bedroom or a room or an office space purely based on some set of preferences, but also then AI, meaning deep learning, image processing to design a perfect bedroom or a perfect workspace. So at the end of the day, I think it's a balance of what is already here, from the customer, coworker, and tech perspective, and what is being developed, so what we see that is coming. But then the ending and the most important part here are the customer needs. So they matter the most. They are the most important. So if we are discussing about AI, I think the starting point always is the customer needs. And if the tech enables the customers to do more, to have it more affordable, and of course at the end of the day, the products that are the more sustainable when it comes to creating them.
Thank you so much, Bartek. And Lydia, I'm heading to you now. Because Pelion, like Polpharma, is also very interested in being much more innovative, and also, as we observe, COVID somehow helped also your organization to give a little boost to heading toward innovation. So, how do you think you're at the very early stage of this process, or can you also comment on what Rebecca and Ruben said?
Thank you very much. And first of all, congratulations on the event of the whole conference. I think it's absolutely magnificent. And really, I want to congratulate you on using this opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
And coming back to the question, I fully agree with Alexandra that these days nobody discusses the need for a certain process of digitization we are already in. And it's true. And the moment when the pandemic happened, we dramatically increased our digital skills. What happened within Pelion, I can share with you a very concrete example, because even recently we discussed it among the top leaders of Pelion. We established the online company working only online. And it was probably the first time within the history of Pelion when we did such a thing, that without a single real meeting, we established from the very beginning till the very end, fully operating company, which is the online clinic that provides service for people who are infected by coronavirus and COVID. So, probably under the normal circumstances, such a thing would be completely impossible. But because of the circumstances, we did something completely from the scratch, and we definitely used no code or zero code or low code tools. But what I wanted to say and add to this, I think that we are not at the beginning. We're already in the process. And what's going on right now in Poland is that we have to work simultaneously, facing the challenges and facing as Bartek said, the needs expressed by customers, patients, and at the same time, we have to deal with the regulations that we are facing in Poland. We, as Polpharma, of course, we operate in the sector that is heavily regulated or even over-regulated. And our possibilities or our knowledge is stimulated or limited by the regulations that we have to deal with. And these are the things that we have to really carefully monitor and deal. And, as company or as a team, we are much further with the developing the new solutions, then we can proceed in the real terms, because we are somehow stopped or limited by the regulations. And definitely this regulatory framework will heavily put a pressure and will bring impact on our activity as well.
Thank you so much. And I just need now to comment from Kamila and Kacper, just from outside the big organization. So could you comment on that and maybe have some other use cases and examples of creative usage of the technology tools? Kamila, may we start with you?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, Rebecca, really good talk, and really flash words about what's going on with machine learning, and it was it was my pleasure to hear that, actually. Thank you for that. And Ruben, I have one comment about collaboration. Actually, I would make a statement that collaboration online, collaboration remotely in remote environment might be actually easier and more creative. So that's something for which, if we will have time, I would be very happy to discuss.
When we finally learn it.
Yes, I'm just going from this point of view when I'm 10 years on the market working, and 8 years it's remote work for me, and only 2 years from the office. So from my perspective, it's like now whole of the world is going in the same direction of remote work. Also, I'm very happy to hear about culture in Ruben's talk. It was amazing to see this point. And with one thing which I definitely would like you to stay today is this idea that to be creative, to build a creative culture, we need to build a culture of knowledge sharing. And to build a culture of knowledge sharing, we need communities. We need internal communities. We need communities which are open to cooperate with other communities, not only in the company but outside. And it's very important for creativity. because it helps with this fear, which very often and surprisingly we have the fear of getting something to gain new knowledge. Very often in big corporations, in big organizations, there is this fear of actually learning. So I believe that communities might be a very good answer for that.
Thank you. And Kacper.
Yes, well, we've heard about examples from many different industries. And I think that definitely what Tomasz said about Polpharma is a classical case where, because the productivity factors, so the measure of innovativeness, the cost to create something new, the cost to bring a novel product or service to the market is soaring, is increasing, and has been increasing for a long time. It's just a necessity, and this is destiny, to use whatever is available. AI is experiencing a big boom in terms of development, in terms of technology. We still haven't sorted out some of the things, for instance, data collection for algorithms to learn. And there are some interesting hypotheses about that, with new sensing networks and with new sources of this data. But generally speaking, the answer about the role of AI in creativity is for the time being it's settled. We are already in many ways using AI to increase the creativity and to help us. But this low-code, no-code thing is more of an uncertain. 2 years ago, I think you remember very well, Jovita, we were together and at Koneser in Warszawa, and you with Sebastian Kulczyk, you were giving an award to Luna, programming without coding. Mm-hmm. This was one of the, maybe not the first signals, because this thing has been around for a couple of years already, but this was a strong message saying, programming for lay people, yes, programming without coding is a big topic. It's very promising. Now, years are going by, and we see products being put to the market for visual or spreadsheet-based coding solutions, and this is not moving at a pace that we could have anticipated. We don't see how the masses, the blue collars, I'm accidentally wearing a blue collar today, so I think nobody will be offended, are somehow not picking this up. It's not what we would have wanted. And even if Krzysztof was presenting fantastic cases about, intrapreneurship within Intercars, there's still a huge potential and a question that we need to ask. The people who are at our companies here and now, and we want them to get creative with the help of AI, will they find the time to learn what it means to be creative and to add value through creativity at the workplace before they are replaced by robots and automata? Or will they just will they not catch up in time? This is a serious issue, because maybe it's just that these different streams of liberating creativity or giving a boost to creativity with technology solutions is not equally distributed, and some solutions will work better than the others. I think for discovery, what Tomasz was presenting, it makes perfect sense. But for other issues like, let's say, we have predictive maintenance in maintenance, and it works great with AI. But when it comes to learning the right attitudes at the workplace for safety as part of maintenance, there are no spectacular technological breakthroughs there. So I wouldn't be too optimistic about some of the strengths. However, as the last sentence, the total productivity factor or the multiple productivity factor, the main economical measure of innovation, is giving us a very hard time, and increasingly hard time. It's increasingly hard to come up with something. So we need anything, just about anything, to retain competitiveness and to come up with innovative solutions. And AI is yes, it is one of the answers.
Mm. Rebecca and Ruben, would you be so kind to comment on that, what you've just heard from everyone, from the perspective we shared?
Sure. Maybe I'll start. Really exciting to hear perspectives from people doing so many different types of work with so many different perspectives on where AI fits into your organization. So thank you for sharing that. I'll pick up on I think it was Tomasz who was talking about, it's for him not really about AI, generating things on its own, and it's not just about people making things, but about these synergies between AI and people. And I just want to say I couldn't agree more. I think the most exciting and the most important research that I see in academia as well as in industry research labs, including Microsoft's for that matter, have to do with really trying to understand better how we understand the strengths, the complementary strengths of both people and algorithms, and how we link them together in ways that for people are understandable, that allow them to take their domain expertise and communicate that to an algorithm, how to take things that an algorithm might generate, whether that is decisions in medical contexts or whether it's product ideas or process changes. How do you allow a person to look at that and make judgments on it, decide whether to follow the decision of an algorithm or not? How does a person fix an algorithm when it's not doing something reasonable? These are really challenging problems for one reason, because these algorithms were not necessarily developed with people in mind in this way. And so something that I think is on the horizon that's happening more and more inside both academia and industry is people looking seriously at these kinds of issues, because they cut across every domain, and we need to learn how to do this better.
Thank you. So now Ruben, and I see that Tomasz also wants to say something. So Ruben, if you can comment now.
Sure. So just echoing what Rebecca said, I think a couple of takeaways for me from today. One, so exciting that a group of organizations are at the point where you are very practically thinking about AI and low code, no code, and the potential for your organization, as well as some of the challenges that you've got. The other thing that was, as I work for a tech company and the vast bulk of my presentation was on culture, again, it was really great to kind of hear the fact that you all recognize the importance of culture. So as leaders, you set the tone for what you want to empower your people to do. And it struck me as we went, someone else talked about communities. Without communities and that culture that says, we want to give you the time, we want to give you the license to go and look at potential ways on doing things better, or for you to learn new skills as an employee of this organization, to feel part of the organization. I can't stress enough how important communities are. And it struck me, so I do a lot of work with GSK, the pharmaceutical company. And what they've done is they've built a community of enthusiasts and passionate folks around low code, no code. And they've formed, there's over 1,000 of these people within their organization now. And it's all about how do they support each other. So what GSK has done is set up the infrastructure, an online community using Teams and various other technologies to foster people asking questions and helping each other out and so on. So they did that. But culturally, the other thing that they've done is that they haven't forced on it, but they've allocated and they encourage basically 1 hour a week called hack time. And it's purely about scheduling time for people in the organization to reflect on how they do things and brainstorm as to ideas on how things can be improved. So that's just my classic, case or poster child, if you will, about the importance of leadership driving a culture. The technology part is the easy bit. You've got to foster that enthusiasm and that willingness to use these technologies wherever they come from. So.
Thank you. And Tomasz?
Yes, I just wanted to emphasize, a few words that were said by some of you about. First of all, I think all this activity has to be intentional. If you are not intentional, if you don't drive it, don't expect results. Second, once you are intentional, you have to be adaptive, and you have to observe how it's like driving the race car. You need to adapt to the conditions, to the environment while you drive. And I want to say that, community 200% agree. 2 years ago, we have created in Polpharma Digital Community. It started in a number of ways, not always the most boosting activity. But then we started to think how to attract people more, how to engage them more. And actually, when the COVID working from home situation happened, this community started to be the most active community in the company, talking about helping others how to, work from home, how to use Microsoft Teams technology and other things. But the most, the nicest for me, I was very proud of that, when we suddenly noticed that, we are using augmented reality in production already for a while. And people were sharing their experience with that. And then suddenly one of our colleagues from the customer-facing department said, look, we have a big problem, actually, because we have a customer in the United States. Normally, this customer would visit us and see our plant, assess our capability, and then would decide if he wants to sign a contract or not. And in this situation, we don't know how to do it. And at the end, we have organized, using the augmented reality solution, we have organized the route, virtual route along the production facility. The customer in California was quite, let's say, astonished with this approach. But actually, the reaction of the customer was very, very good. And ultimately, we have signed a contract. So, this is how in the community, some ideas from one side of the company can trigger a completely different solution in the other side of the company, just knowing that this technology is not that difficult to use.
Thank you so much, Tomek. And we have 10 minutes till the end of discussion, so I would encourage you to speak freely, to share your examples. Maybe you have some similar to Tomasz. Especially, I'm asking Lydia, Bartek, Krzysztof, and Alexandra. So I don't need to encourage you. Just maybe share some final thoughts.
Maybe one reflection from my side is that, we are sometimes thinking like, what kind of technology will you use? Yesterday I was at the panel and I was asked a question, okay, so you do blockchain, you do cloud, what will be next, yeah? And I really didn't like the question, because it's not the point to do a technology, it's the point to identify right problem and then attack it with right technology. Otherwise, it will be hype. I agree here with Rebecca, and some companies who do it so that their shares would go up, maybe fine, but in real business, it doesn't matter. And the second thing is that we sometimes don't know what benefits a technology bring. For example, a small example, we started this chatbot technology, AI-powered, in many areas of the company, but one area where we started it in was a collection, yes? We know, crisis is coming, so for sure many more people will be needed to collection, so to cut the cost, to cut the capacity, we introduced a chatbot there. And what we found out after this pilot is that actually our clients prefer to talk to the chatbot because they don't like to talk to human about their, in-depthness, about their restructuring, etc., etc. And the main benefit of that pilot was the increase of NPS and the increase of actual collection benefits. Yes, we would never probably think it when we would design the pilot. It just happened afterwards. So just being open to that kind of a pilot brought new results. And I think it will be the same with many more technologies to come. Yeah?
That's an important point. Even MIT has a special term for the companies that just acquire technology without even knowing what for. They are called digital fashionistas, which I really like the term. So Bartek, Krzysztof, and Lydia, any examples from your side?
Yeah, so I think the essential part also that we haven't discussed much here today is also the communication. So at the end of the day, most of the time technology sits in one place within a company, and then it's being, I would say, in some companies pushed down the chain, and sometimes it's being, the communication side is super important, especially when it comes to low code and no code. The tech will not be, and especially in our example, it's not used directly or only by the digital team. It's being used by every coworker that is trying to solve a problem with the help of technology. So at the end of the day, the free time that is the time that is being freed by algorithms or introducing or digital transformation overall needs to be, first of all, the time needs to be connected to directly to the coworkers. So if we are freeing time, then the question is how we are also supporting the coworker in acquiring new skills. And then if we are seeing problems that can be solved through tech, then how are we enabling the coworkers to use the tech because they are the closest to the problem? It's not about, IT development teams or digital teams running all the technology inside a company. At the end of the day, it should be the people who are the closest to the problem. And that brings to one of the biggest challenges for every company is if you are introducing new technology, if you are introducing new processes with the help of technology, then how are you also providing the value and communicating the value of that solution within the company, which is especially important in larger or bigger companies. And I think that part it comes down also to building those communities inside the company that are the first or early adopters of the technology, and then are able to support that solutions to be adopted company-wide.
If I may, I really have in mind, and in my head, the lecture that was provided by Professor Harari yesterday, and who really referred, to the consequences of the implementation of artificial intelligence, not only in business but in society as such in general. And I think, and I fully agree with Bartek that in connection to Professor Harari's speech, that communication is really a key factor and key issue these days. And we have to somehow, our responsibility is to communicate and to deeply understand the role and the meaning of artificial intelligence and machine learning and the role of machines in general, and how we can somehow enrich our business life and our business development using the artificial intelligence and machine learning, as Krzysztof also pointed that during his presentation, that we are talking about revenues, not about cost reduction, and we are talking the further development. And I think this is really, really crucial, because as we communicate and we discuss, and this is like a constitution of within Pelion, our discussion about the AI, that we are talking about the joint effort, because we strongly believe that machine and people working together, they can bring results that are absolutely overwhelming. And this is the way we want to basically go forward. And this is how we think about it in the future.
And maybe only I finish that based on the communication is simplification and this capacity of the workforce, because I think that when we think about the additional revenue, sometimes this blockage on the communication, when we use the technology and not as a tool, the new tool as a toy, but the tool as we can use really for improving and simplify everything as well, the people feel much better, and then they feel that they can create something. And then, of course, I believe in this hybrid version, that it's very important as well to meet. And as well, maybe we meet today in the after party. together to as well summarize some of the topic. Thank you very much. Great event.
Thank you so much, Krzysztof. So we have 3 minutes to the end of the panel, so we need some, like 2 maybe panelists who want to like summarize, maybe Kamila and Kacper.
Maybe I will start. It seems like we all agree that from one hand we have technology, and we all agree in the room that this technology is already advanced, it's already on the, it's on the market, and we are using that every day. And that's one thing. And the second thing, it's like how we are preparing our organization to actually use this technology, how we are preparing people, how we work with this remote working. And it's the second but very, very, very important part of the conversation. And I'm looking for more conversation in this direction as well. And thank you so much for today. It was a pleasure.
Kacper.
We wouldn't have had so many COVID vaccines in clinical trials had it not been for AI supporting drug discovery processes in pharmaceutical companies and in universities. So, and we will not be able to see, we cannot experiment historically and see, you know, what our world would have been so far without information technology and information superhighway that is now called the internet and all the other great inventions that we've enjoyed so far. But for the future, you know, we still have some questions that we will face. We are not facing them right now about the consequences of this creativity, of this support, the ethical and economic consequences. But for now, I think we can confidently say that we can just enjoy and increase and invest in the positive results of automation and rise of robotics, including for cognitive functions, that is artificial intelligence. So we should not worry too much for the time being. You know, let's leave it to futurists. That's the work I do. But other than this, you know, I strongly feel that every company should experiment with the solutions. You know, be this back processes or front processes or core business, and look for increasing productivity, because, you know, it may come at any moment from any possible direction. I hope it's not offended our PKO guest because she's left.
No, you didn't offend anyone. This is the, thank you so much.
Sir.
Thank you so much for this, I think, very interesting discussion. I think we've talked about lots of elements around the whole automation and digital transformation. So thank you so much for everything. All is still here with us. And Richard is back to say that Richard was with me during the whole 2 days. So we were hosting the whole conference. So we'd like to thank everyone who's been with us for those 2 days with 40-something speakers. I don't even remember how many of you shared your experience with that. Thank you so much. And this is the end of the bigger part of Masters and Robots. Richard.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Juvita. You have done 2 days of constantly being on the screens. So congratulations for that, and congratulations for a great event.
It was a pleasure.
If you are still watching us, then you have a lot of stamina as well. We'd like to thank everyone involved in the event. But as Jovita says, there are some sessions tomorrow, interactive sessions for not everyone, but people holding a special type of ticket. So it's not quite finished. But for most of us and most of you, it's come to an end. 2 days of sharing really the latest ideas and information on cutting-edge technology. So thank you everyone for coming, and once again congratulations to Digital University for putting on such a great event.
And I would like to thank all the team standing behind the whole organization, all the Digital University team. Actually, you've done an amazing job, usually every year at the end of Master Ceremonies we gather here, all of us, but it's impossible when we are in online because not everyone is here with us, but they know how I'm talking to. Thank you so much for being a part of Digital University, for making this kind of miracles, like having all those amazing global experts on technology in one place on time and talking about these amazing things. Thank you, Richard, for this partnership on today. And
pleasure.
thank all of the guests. Thank you so much. And see you next year. And I've already started thinking what we can do for next year.
That's for another year. That's for
Who
another
could
year.
we invite? Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.